Hi everyone, welcome to another session. We are gonna train a model today, so this is our third session. We're training a model right away. This is possibly one of the fastest courses you've been checking on the internet for sure on the DP100. So we're gonna be headed on the same place we've been headed in the last sessions. We're gonna go through the Azure machine learning workspace. We're going to choose our workspace, we're going to launch the studio, and we're going to go for the designer. All right, we're going to create the pipelines with the designer. We could create them on Python code, but it's better to get started with the designer. We have different options, right, that we could choose for pre-built. We're going to choose from scratch just to learn the whole process and to basically customize it for our use case. As you can see, I've been doing some testing before because it has changed a lot since the last year when I got the DP100. So it's better to get used to how everything is basically organized. So we're gonna create a new pipeline from scratch. We're gonna make sure that we're heading here with classic pre-built. That's what we're gonna be using today. We're gonna click in here and a pipeline is gonna be created. We're gonna have a menu right here with the different things that we can add to our pipeline. It is a drag and drop environment, and we're gonna add different modules that are gonna be connected as a pipeline. So the main objective of machine learning, I'm gonna explain it further when we click on training. We wait for the training to happen, just to make sure that we condense as much information as possible on the video, and you guys can do watch back, replay, whatever, without any issues. So basically, how machine learning works is you get data, you choose a model, you put data into the model, the model understands the data mathematically. On the different algorithms it happens differently, and basically when the model is trained, you obtain kind of a program that you give it data and it gives you a response based on the data that it has seen previously. So if the data that it has seen previously is very different to the kind of data that you give it the model, it's gonna go very bad. It's not gonna choose the right prediction for you. If it is in the same kind of distribution, that's how it's called mathematically, it's gonna go fine. Basically this is compression. Machine learning is compression all the way down. So it's quite relevant to make sure that our data that we're just giving the model reflects the kind of data that we're gonna have in the future. So what we're gonna do first of all is we're gonna choose a data. We click on here, data. We refresh, component sample data, sorry, and we're gonna choose the weather data, which is right here. All right. As you can see, this is drag and drop, moving here, and we're gonna choose now a different thing. So we have finished with the data. We're gonna use a data set which is called the weather data set. We can double click in here, get on the outputs, click on here to visualize the data, and as you can see, it has different columns. It is a tabular data set. It's very similar to the kind of data that we uploaded in the previous video. And I'm going this way just in order to ease the process, because I want you guys to get your hands dirty prior to getting on some Python and pandas code. So we come in here, we can see the different columns, values for the columns, and distributions for the different values, and basically that's gonna be it. It has 13 columns, right? So what we're gonna do is, first of all, we need to select the columns that we're gonna be using. So we go to data transformations. We can look for it in here, like select column in data set, this one, and now we're gonna connect our data set into the input for this, right? And now this is saying, hey, there's a warning, there's a value required. Let's check which kind of values by double clicking on it. So we need to give the kind of columns that we're gonna choose. So we click on edit column, and we can provide the names by name. We choose by name, and we choose the columns that we're gonna give. So these are gonna be the month, the year, the day, the time, the sky condition, the weather type, the dry bulb, Celsius. You can choose Fahrenheit. I'm gonna go for Celsius. And finally, the hourly precip. I think I have everything, for example. Just to make sure that I have everything. Right, weather types, K condition, time, day, month, year. Kind of. If we miss something, we can go back and modify the whole thing. So we're gonna click on save. And this is everything we're gonna need. These are the columns. So basically from the whole data set, it's only gonna choose the columns that we just gave it. We're gonna leave everything as it is. Don't worry, keep moving. So the next thing is gonna be to clean the missing data. Right, I'm gonna make sure that I give you guys a very good example to start with, and you just can replicate this formula on other kind of cases. So we're gonna need to clean the data, clean missing data, right? We can just look for it in here, or just basically, if you come on data transformation, clean. Well, it's gonna be somewhere. It's gonna be somewhere. Right, never mind. Clean missing data. So on clean missing data, we're gonna get the previous data set. We're gonna put it in here, just drag and drop. It says there's a problem in here because we have to give the columns that need to be cleaned. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose all the columns from here, the same columns, right? So I'm just gonna copy paste. If you do this, it's gonna work. Copy and paste them here. Edit column by name. Well, sorry, right here with rules, column names, paste. Don't worry, save. And as you can see, it just found that you gave a comma after each of the different names, and it just basically understood that you can just click on the cross to remove them. We're gonna leave it as theirs. Alright, so save. Now it's our time to normalize the data. So I'm gonna go data transformations, normalize data. I'm gonna explain later on what normalizing is. Basically, we're gonna choose the cleaned dataset. Very important to choose this one in here and put it on the dataset right there. And yeah, we're just gonna double click again. We're gonna choose the transformation method for min max, and we're gonna choose the columns to transform. We're gonna choose two names, which are basically just to make sure that the example works fine, the dry bulb and the hourly. So the dry bulb and the hourly, this one's right here. So copy paste, boom boom, edit column, boom, paste, save, bang, we have them. And now the next step is gonna be to train the model, right? So this processing here is basically for cleaning the data that we just got from there. And now we're gonna train the model. We choose the model, right? There's a section which is called machine learning algorithms, and we can choose whatever algorithm we desire. Depending on the kind of problem that we're gonna have, we should choose one or the other. But basically, let's choose, as you can see, it's classified on regression, clustering, right? All the different models. We're gonna choose boost decision tree regression, right? Because we're gonna print a value basically. So boost decision tree regression, we're gonna come up right here, and this is the untrained model that we need to train. So there is an activity that's called how is it called? So I'm just gonna model training, sorry, and it's gonna be of type train model. So we just bring in here train model, we bring the untrained model in here, and we bring the data set in here, just like that. And we just double click in here and say, hey, which is the label column? So we need to choose the label column, and it's gonna be I'm just gonna copy paste it in here. So I'm just gonna choose dry bulb Celsius, and I'm gonna come up right here and say edit column, boom, save. I think that was the one I used before. Yeah, I don't remember, but let's leave it there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to predict, because this is a regression. Remember, there are 13 kinds of problems in machine learning. Just in case you don't know them, I'm just gonna explain them so quickly. So they are either you're doing regression, which basically is predict a value, or you're doing clustering, which basically is let's create different clusters of similar elements, different groups, or you're doing classification. That means, hey, here are different values, which is the class of this kind of data value, and it's gonna tell you, hey, this is very likely from class 1 or class 2, or this is diabetes, this is not diabetes. For regression, for example, could be this is 124 as a prediction. For clustering, it's gonna be, hey, elements 1, 2, 3 are very similar for the same cluster, same group. Elements 4, 5, 6 are very similar for the second group, right? So these are the kind of cases. And this is gonna output our trained model that we're gonna score. We're gonna see, hey, which is the score, which is the value, how good it is. So model scoring and evaluation, and we're gonna go for score model. We're gonna choose train model. We're gonna connect those things together. Same name of the output, train model, same name of the output, untrained model, and so on and so forth. And we're gonna bring as well the transform data set in here. Whoops. Right there. Okay, in order to score the whole thing. Alright. Out of curiosity, what does it say in here? Alright, transformation function. Never mind. Alright, so this is gonna be our pipeline. This is gonna be our training pipeline. Whenever we want to create a new model, we're just gonna run this thing, and it's gonna give us a model. Alright, and it's also gonna give us a score. So we have the pipeline. Now we need to run it. How do we do that? Alright, this is possibly the most important moment on this lesson. So what we're gonna do, first of all, we're gonna validate, right? There's an error somewhere, or yeah, there's an error. Select compute target in submission wizard. So we click in there, and it brings us to the pipeline job. So what we're gonna do is basically we're gonna submit the pipeline, all right, to a compute element, and the compute element, it's gonna be where we're gonna run the training, because in order to train the model, we need to train it somewhere, right? So we're gonna choose. We have different kind of things that we can choose. We can run it on a container, which basically is a compute instance. We can run it on a cluster, a lot of machines, right? This is a small model. This is machine learning. This is not deep learning. This is not neural networks. This is not something big. So we're gonna choose compute instance, also because it's cheaper, and we're just testing. Or we could just run it on a Kubernetes compute or on an attached compute. I'm just gonna leave it on compute instance. We need to choose the compute instance. As you can see, I have one here, right? It shows as green. But if you want to create one, you just can click on create AzureML compute instance. You give it a name like ABC or whatever. Why can't I? Or possibly because I'm on a student account and I cannot. But basically you give the CPU or GPU, whatever you want to choose. I will go for CPU because you don't need a GPU to train a Voice decision tree for sure. You could choose which one do you prefer. I have chosen this one. Oh, sorry, this one before, the one from 2 cores. This is the cheapest. This is quite, it has much more RAM that you are gonna need. This is much more stuff you're gonna need. So this is gonna be fine for you. And you review, create, save, and that's it. You can configure different things in here. It doesn't allow me as it appears, because I just have one already. I'm just gonna leave. That's how you create it. So whenever it's created, it's gonna show as blue, kind of waiting or not yet created. So whenever that is finished, you are gonna be able to choose it. Okay, I'm just choosing it right now. You are gonna choose the default data store, right? For now, we don't need to worry because we're getting the data from Azure, right? We're gonna leave it there, and we're gonna click on next. Right, this is basically 40 different tags, whatever you want to choose. Just going back and review plus submit. And we have something missing. Right, basics. All right, we also need to give an experiment. Okay, so it's better to just go in order, just in case. In my case, it just started on the runtime settings, but it's better to just go back and say, okay, basics is missing something. So we need to create an experiment, or we can just choose an experiment that we have created before. So in my case, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create a new one. I could choose this one that I have created before, exp1, but I'm just gonna click on here and say, hey, this is exp2. I could give a name for the job, so let's go for Dart job 1. I'm just gonna leave the job description empty, give tags whatever you want, review plus submit, and this is be fine, submit again. Right, submitting to the Azure cloud. We have success right here, pipeline job has been submitted, and it's gonna fail. Guys, it's gonna fail. I'm telling you, it's gonna fail. I have done it on purpose so that we can see how we can travel through the whole process and find where the issue is, how to solve it, whatever. So we have just uploaded the whole thing. I'm just gonna go for pipelines, and as you can see, we have different status for the pipelines. One of them failed. This one was completed successfully. We have the time. We have the moment description when it happened. We can just click on favorites if we prefer. And we have, this is basically the job. The job is kind of when you're running, right? Like the execution itself. And then we have the experiment. Like the idea behind these abstractions is you have an experiment where you run different executions, right? You train different models or the same model multiple times, and you can evaluate differences between them. So if we just click on the job, you're gonna see that as it progresses, right, this one right now is waiting because it is showing as blue, but as it progresses, it's gonna show the green, right? It is now running because it is now green and white, right? Strip green and white, and it just failed. I told you it's gonna fail. We can just left click on this twice, double click, and it's gonna show an exception, right? Somewhere. So we can go to outputs plus logs, and we can see the logs in here, like what is happening. And it is showing something in here. It says, hey, cannot process column hourly precip of type string. The type is not supported by the module. All right. So what happens in here? So the normalized data can only be applied to data that is numeric, right? It's an integer, it's a double, float, whatever, but it's numeric. So I just gave it a string and it doesn't know what to do with it. It's normal. So what do we do now? We fix it. How do we fix it? We go to pipelines, we choose the pipeline itself, which is basically this one, right? And now we go to designer. That's a problem. If you go to pipelines and choose, you're gonna go through the jobs, but you are unable to modify things in here. So it happened to me before, it happened again to me. Just make sure you don't make the mistake. You go to designer, you choose the pipeline itself, which is basically this one, the latest, and you choose where it all failed, which basically is normalized data. Double click on it, remove the column that gave the problem, which basically is hourly precip, and just leave it on dry bulb Celsius. Click on save, and it's very important to submit the thing. So we're gonna go to jobs, confirm, right? Experiment 2. We need to publish, so this one failed, so we need to publish. We go to pipeline, sorry. We go to this one, yeah, and we click on publish. Publish, select existing. We choose the endpoint where we want to run it, right? And let's click on publish. If we don't publish it, the changes are not gonna be applied, and that's problematic. And if we want to run it again, what we do is basically we just click on resubmit. Resubmit. select existing, we choose the experiment 2, which is the job we want, and review and submit, right? And now if we go to jobs, we click on experiment 2, we see that there is one of them running, right? That's because we have resubmitted. And we can double click in here. You're gonna see that it will start where it failed. If you don't make any modifications before the moment in which it failed, it's not gonna run the whole thing again. Why? Oh, because it's just saving time for you. It's just saving money, it's just saving time for you. It just found out that you don't need to run the previous process. Okay, it's failing again. That's interesting, because that didn't happen before. And that leaves space for investigation. Yeah, it feels like it doesn't took the chance that I just made. So I'm just gonna make sure this is fine. Let's come up right here. Yeah, as you can see, guys, it didn't. We just left without any changes. So just remove this, click on save, and click on validate. The pipeline looks good. I think it is now saved. We need to click on validate. And now we go to pipelines. You haven't saved, cancel. How do I save it? Oh, click on an autosave, possibly. Let's try to see how to save this thing. Configure and submit. Yeah. Alright, pipeline job has been submitted. That seems like fine to me. Absolutely. Alright, so whatever. Apparently we have this running. Alright, we have this running. We need to do it, like, make sure you do the steps properly. Click on here, it's running. I hope this is gonna work now. We can check the parameters. Like if we click in here, parameters, yeah, it only have dry bulb Celsius, so it seems like it's gonna work. Make sure to validate, make sure to resubmit, because otherwise it's gonna fail. Right now it's training the model while it's waiting for this phase to be available, and I'm just gonna explain a bit how we are doing all these things. So the main reason why we are selecting 13 columns is because we don't need the whole data set for the task that we're gonna do, right? Why are we cleaning the data? Because it is very likely that there's gonna be fields that are missing from the data set. So we just left everything as default in order to go fast, create the pipeline, train, move on. But you can choose which kind of data you want to provide on each of the different missing possible values that you have. Right now the model is trained, it's scoring the model, right? So finally, why are we normalizing the data? So we are normalizing the data because we need to make sure that we are giving the models the values on a 13 range. We don't want the values very high values or very low values will affect the prediction for the other different values on the data set. So you want to make them to look similar, let's say, right? In addition, I'm just giving you some blueprints that you can use pretty much everywhere. If you train boost decision trees, it's very likely that normalizing is not 100% necessary, but for clustering is very important. For neural networks is very important, and the fact of normalizing is likely not going to affect any model that doesn't require that, like for example a boost tree. So that's because I'm just giving it there, and as you can see we just use min max, so it's gonna take the minimal maximum value, it's gonna make the calculation. We can provide some more advanced lessons on how different formulas work for normalizing data. And finally, the model has been scored. We're gonna check the scoring part on the next video because this one is getting quite long. We had some extra troubleshooting that we need to follow because it failed. That wasn't planned. The first time it was planned, the second it wasn't. So pretty much we have a model train. Third lesson, model train. We're moving forward on Azure Machine Learning, and I hope you guys like, subscribe. Any questions that you may have, just keep them on the comments down below, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.